Well, hello, fifth grade. It is time. Oh man, my hairline really is going back further. Well, I guess we still got to learn history. I guess I can just keep pushing it back. One day I have to shave it, like comb it over maybe. That's not going to be a good look. We should probably get started. All right, fifth grade, it is time for another ancient history video. We are going to be talking about the early Aegean civilizations today. This is Unit 6 in ancient history. So let's go ahead and dive right into the slideshow.
All right, so we'll begin here with the Aegean civilizations. We have this beautiful picture here with the ruins at the Palace of Knossos on the island of Crete, which we'll get to in a little bit. And then here's our map. We are in the Mediterranean here. It's very hard to make out Greece and the island of Crete in this map, so let's go ahead and take a closer look here. And here you can see a lot better a view of Greece here, and then the long, skinny island of Crete. We're going to really do a quick flyby of the Phoenicians as we move into these civilizations. The Phoenicians, they were very strong travelers and traders and made their way across the Mediterranean. Their most famous city that we talked about was the city of Carthage, which, according to legend, was founded by Dido as she spreads out that bull's skin to claim her city. All right, so I want to really begin here with life in early Crete, and that study will obviously need to start with the Minoans. And the Minoans were a group of people who lived around 2200 BC, started living on the island of Crete, which is that long, skinny island just south of Greece. We studied some of their art and learned a lot about their culture, the sports, the bull leaping that they did. We looked at that beautiful bull leaping fresco that you see in front of you right now, and talked a lot about how we can learn from a culture by studying the things that that culture made. And then the last thing we talked about them was that they had a very strong navy, and we talked about why. Why would a navy be important? Well, if you look at a map of Crete, you see that it's an island, and it's important to realize that a standing army that is all on land is not going to be the most important thing for the Minoans. Instead, they need an army that can fight on the water, and so we call that a navy. All right, so then we move into our next focus on the early Greeks. We start with the Mycenaeans, who start settling on Crete in the 15th century, right around 1450 BC. And for them, Crete is established as a colony. Now, a colony is one of the harder words to define in our ancient history course, and a colony, as we're defining it, is an area under control of another civilization in a different place, right? So the Mycenaeans were not originally from Crete, and so when they established a colony there, those people were still under control of the original place the Mycenaeans came from. They were from a city-state or a polis over in Greece. The Mycenaeans were very powerful at the time. They used bronze weapons and armor, and they're really one of the first great Greek civilizations. And then as we fast forward, we get to the Greek Dark Ages. So I remember Dark Ages it's a name that we can give to a lot of different times in history, and it doesn't mean anything about actual light or anything like that. Instead, it means a time that we just don't know a lot about. I mean, think, we turn all the lights off in your bedroom, all of a sudden, there's a lot more that's unknown. Right? So all that means when we call it a dark age is that there are things that we don't know. Well, what happens to cause this Greek dark age is that the Mycenaean civilization begins to decline, and a big part of that is because of the metal that they are using. So they were using bronze, but some of the other groups of people, like the Dorians from further north, they were using iron, and iron is much stronger than bronze. And so the Mycenaeans were overcome by a couple of different groups around the area at this time. And when the Mycenaeans fell and their culture diminished, the people who moved in did not keep records. They didn't really read or write very much, and they didn't often settle large cities. And so because of this, there's very few things that we know about this time. It's a few centuries long, and in this time, there's not much that we know. Greece eventually gets an alphabet, and this will be the reason that they come out of the Dark Ages. So what happens is that after centuries of kind of living in this so-called Dark Age, right, the groups that had invaded Greece become more and more quote-unquote civilized, right? That's kind of the name that sometimes is thrown around there. They started doing things that are more normal in our culture, like writing down their history, or settling in larger cities, and they started thinking of themselves as Greeks as well. Even though they weren't originally from Greece, they started thinking of themselves as Greeks. And they invented an alphabet, which you can see here. Now, the Greek alphabet, it has 24 letters, and many of those letters are very similar to our letters that we use in English. And again, this was such a big discussion, which we really don't have the time to get into in this video, but it's really, really important that we understand the role that reading and writing can have on a culture. And especially for us as historians right now, this is how we learn about things is through reading and writing, or reading about other cultures. And so once the Greeks begin doing this once more, we start to know a lot more. One of the people who we learned so much from during this time is a man named Homer. We read the Iliad out loud in class, and right now, or maybe you've already finished, we are in the midst of reading the Odyssey. Both of those tell stories that Homer wrote. The first one tells the story of the Trojan War, and then the Odyssey tells about Odysseus returning from that Trojan War. And then we've got a couple of memes here. There's Homer, right? And then this is a great one, right, with Drake here. Not this Homer. We're talking about this Homer. Okay. The last thing I want to cover for us is just this very famous amphora, which is a two-handed vase here. It's called Ajax and Achilles. You can see Ajax and Achilles, two characters from the Iliad. They are playing checkers there. And this very, very famous style of art is called the black figure style, and it's pretty clear why. And so that's the end of this review. Let's go ahead and do those big three, though, before we leave. So the first question, the first one of our big three is, what was the importance of the Mediterranean Sea to the Aegean civilizations? I think this is really, really similar to our questions about why did civilizations use rivers, or why were civilizations built around rivers? The second one is, what is a colony and why would civilizations want to establish them? And then the third question, what role did the Greek alphabet play in the reemergence of the Aegean and Greek civilizations after the Greek Dark Ages? The answer to the first question is the Mediterranean Sea was the primary form of trade and travel in the ancient world. The answer about the colony is that a colony is an area under control of another civilization in a different place. Colonies are important because they allow a civilization to grow and spread their power across a large area. And then lastly, the Greek alphabet allowed the Greeks to begin reading and writing once more.
So there you have it. Those are our early Aegean civilizations. We're going to move into our next unit. We'll continue to stay in this same geographic place as we start looking at wars that occur in the Mediterranean and look particularly at two city-states, Athens and Sparta. So until next time, take care.